hand to Jesus this morning? Come on, you can do better than that. Give Jesus a hand of praise. He's worthy today to be lifted up. Worthy today to be praised. We do appreciate each of you that are here this morning. We appreciate you being in the house of the Lord to come and to worship God. The psalmist said, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go unto the house of the Lord. I was thinking about that this morning, and I'm pretty sure if they were that anxious about getting to the house of God, they didn't come and sit there when they got there. Amen? I believe they came up with a worship and a praise in their heart, and that's what we're here this morning to do, is to praise and to worship and to magnify and to exalt and to adore and to give all of our honor and all of our praise to Jesus. Had it not been for him, you wouldn't be here this morning. And for that, you ought to praise him, because he's giving you life, health, strength, breath, amen, to get here today. We do appreciate you that are here this morning. I'm glad today that for the second Sunday in a row, I'm glad to have my middle son with us today. And, you know, we hear a lot of people, they will brag on their children for how well they play ball, or they'll brag on their children about how fast they ran on the track, or they'll brag about their children about all of these various things. Well, with no pride this morning, I'm proud this morning that on Sunday morning, my oldest son is somewhere preaching the gospel. My youngest son is here. My daughter's in the back running the media. And I appreciate that this morning. I'm proud of them. I want you to come up, Jonathan. Jonathan, in the next couple weeks, is going to be moving to Pennsylvania. He's going to spend a year there with he and his soon-to-be wife in 1 year, and then they're going to become missionaries to Ecuador. Amen. I appreciate that this morning. How many young men do you know wanting to leave the United States to preach the gospel to people in other countries? Amen. And so we've got this worked up this morning. He has been learning Spanish and preparing himself to go. And it's not easy to learn another language. It's not always easy to do that, but he is learning how to do that, and we're going to just do this for you real quick this morning. All right? Are we ready? This is his. Me and my wife will be going to Ecuador in a year.
Yo y mi esposa vamos a Ecuador en un año.
We are going down to become a part of the Ecuador missions founded by Sister Susan Template.
Vamos a ser por la Ecuador Missions Fondoloma para hermano Susan Template.
As a missionary student, I have learned to live with a mission every day.
Como estudiante de misionario, aprendiendo a vivir con la misión todos los días.
Being a missionary is a way of life, and missions happen on both domestic and foreign soil.
Ser misionario es una forma de vida, y los misionarios cuando tanto escuela y nacional como en hierro.
Missionaries are not limited to a particular place.
Los misionarios no se limitan a particular lugar.
It begins with your sphere of influences.
Comienza con tu esfera de influencia.
And here's the commission, Mark 16:15.
La Marco 16:17.
Go ye into all the world.
La Biblia dice ir por todo el mundo.
And preach the gospel.
Y predicar el gospel.
To every
todo
creature.
A la criatura.
How you like that this morning? Did he do good? Thank you. I think he's doing a great job. Amen. I do good to speak English most of the time. Kind of get mixed up on that some of the time, but I'm proud of my boys this morning, and they both entering in different ways of the ministry, and I appreciate that today. I've got one preaching the gospel. This morning I have him preparing to go to missions, and we're going to find Jenna something to do too. She's grinning, so we'll find her something to do in the kingdom of God. If you train them in the way they should go, when they are old, they can fight it, but they won't depart from it. They can go a different direction, but it never leaves here. Is that right? I've tried to do other things, but it never left my mind. It never left my spirit. And I'm grateful today for the young people that are raising up and preparing. It makes me feel good that somebody's coming up after us to proclaim the gospel unto every creature. And again, we're glad for you that are here today. And I've got a question for you today that I think is imperative. I think it is something that we all have to ask ourselves, because sometimes in life we can lose focus of what God has put in us. How many of you understand that? God gives us visions. God gives us dreams. God gives us things that He says is going to come to pass. And if they don't come to pass in a certain season or a certain time, we begin to lose focus of what God said He would do. So the question I want to ask you this morning is, are my dreams dead? I want you to ask yourself that this morning. Are my dreams dead? Are they dead? Are they gone? Did God promise me something that will not come to pass? Let me explain something to you this morning. That is just simply this. If God tells you something, you can take it to the bank. There are people that they readily say, God said this and God said that, when in reality, God didn't really say anything. Maybe they ate too much pizza that night and woke up with some kind of dream that God said this and God said that, but it did not come to pass. But let me explain to you this morning about God. If God says it, you can believe it. You don't have to worry about if it's going to come to pass. If God said it's going to come to pass, it will come to pass. We have dreams that we look at, and those dreams, they seemingly do not come to pass, and we lose focus, and sometimes we may even forget what God has told us. So the question you must ask yourself this morning, is my dream dead? What a question. It's one that carries an immediate reaction. It's probably something, as I'm speaking to you this morning, you began to think about the things that perhaps God has told you. Has my dream died? Has it gone away? Have I given up on my dreams? Have my aspirations given away to fear and given away to the things that are trying to separate me from my dream? I'm reminded of Martin Luther King when he made the speech, I have a dream. His dream was that all men would be created equal, and not only that they would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. He believed enough in that dream that he was willing to sacrifice his life to perpetuate the dream that he believed in. While he did not see all the fulfillment of that dream, and he did not see all of the fulfillment and that dream come to fruition, as we look today, the Negroes and the African Americans have moved into a place that they have gained equality. Listen, I don't say that tonight or this morning derogatory. I'm saying that we have to be willing to pursue our dreams so much that we're not only willing to live, but we would be willing to die for the dream that God has put in us. Our dreams are an amazing thing. As children, I was thinking about this, and I began to think about as a child how I would dream. How do you remember when you were young and you would dream things up, and they would be, you were going to move into a mansion one day, and you were going to have 100 bedrooms in your castle, and the girls were going to have this Prince Charming, and he was going to come and just sweep them off their feet, and us men, we were going to, or us boys, the only thing we wanted to do is to find a way to have a faster car, faster motorcycle, or something like that. I don't remember saying this, but I remember my dad telling me. He asked my brother, he said, do you want to be filled with the Holy Ghost? And Dwayne said, yes. He asked me, do you want to be filled with the Holy Ghost? I said, no, I'd rather have a motorcycle. Because I was thinking like a child. I was thinking, I was dreaming, I was looking. As children, we all have somewhat of a fairy tale dream of something that's going to happen. We envision so many things in a dream that is the reality when we are a child. But as we begin to grow, we soon begin to realize that those dreams and aspirations of what we thought life was, it really isn't that way. Has anybody else in here discovered that this morning? You have all these dreams. We believe in the magic of life. We believe and get easily caught up in the hopes of a wonderful life. But sometimes life can take us on a detour. Has anybody this morning ever been taken on a detour? It's almost a whimsical time when we are children to think about all of the things that are going to happen in our lives. A time that we look into our future and see all the amazing things that are going to happen. And little girls, they see themselves as princesses. I know little girls today. There's a little girl that goes to school with Liam at Head Start. And she's a little African-American girl. And when I go up there and I pick him up, immediately she'll say, she's all divified, you understand? And she gives the report of the day on every child that is in there because she has a dream. Sometimes you go and she'll have a little crown on her head because today she sees herself as a princess. Then there are other days that as we go along in life, we're going to realize that life is not easy as it was when we dreamed it up as children. They dream and envision their life as a place with no worries. No anxiety, no stress. Everything is perfect. Prince Charming is coming to save them, and they'll live happily ever after. But do you understand this morning, there is a long way between the dream and the fruition of that dream. There are some things that we must be willing to go through. Little boys see themselves as noble warriors. You can give a boy a stick and it immediately becomes a sword. You ever notice that? You give him a stick, it'll immediately become a gun. He'll take it up and he's ready to bear arms. They see themselves as strong. You know how I know that? Because little boys are the ones who will jump up in trees and jump out of them showing off and break their arms. They see themselves as invincible. They see themselves as dragon slayers. If you give them those things, it's no time until they're fighting dragons and they're fighting monsters. Anybody else have boys like that? I mean, you give them a stick and they'll make every weapon that they can think of out of that one stick. They spend hours making their dreams up in their mind. However, as they grow and as life begins to unfold, they begin to realize that life just is not really that easy. It's full of struggle. Anybody in here today ever had any struggles? It's difficult. There's going to be heartaches. There's going to be stress. There's going to be decision-making times. It's so difficult at times that our fairy tale dreams in life begin to fall away to the reality that life is really like it is. It grips us to a point that our dreams begin to die and get choked out by reality. Swallowed up by real life. How many of you understand today what real life is? Fears and worry and stresses and anxieties and trying to figure out how to stretch the money to the end of the month and trying to figure out how to make things work when it doesn't seem possible until we look at the situations and inside of us we feel the dreams begin to die. Anybody here this morning? Anybody understand what I'm saying? Have my dreams been stifled by gray skies, or did my dream die inside of me? I'm reminded of a story in St. John chapter number 11. The Bible begins to depict the story of Lazarus. The Bible tells us that Lazarus has come to a point that he is going to succumb to death. They send for Jesus and tell him that Lazarus is going to die. Jesus does not seem to have any immediate reaction to their plight because he continues to stay where he is. He does not come to the immediate aid of Lazarus, and Mary and Martha send for him, but Jesus doesn't come. I begin to think about that this morning concerning the dreams and the aspirations that God has put within us. Let me explain something to you. God may not come when you think he should come, but God will be there when he's supposed to be. Can you say amen to that? God will be there when he's supposed to be there. And so the Bible said for 4 days, Lazarus was laying dead. The dream had died. The hope and the aspiration of Lazarus ever living again had gone. There was no hope for him. I've always wondered why that they waited till the fourth day. I'll tell you, because it was Jewish custom that after the third day, they would legally pronounce that person dead. And when Jesus came back, he did not want anybody to say that maybe Lazarus wasn't really dead. Maybe he was just asleep. But on the fourth day, as he is pronounced dead, Jesus arrives on the scene. Immediately, he is met by Lazarus' sister. She says to him, Jesus, if only you had have been here, our brother, he would have lived. And Jesus said, your brother is not dead, he is just asleep. There are things inside of us that are not dead, but they're lying dormant. They're lying asleep inside of us because we've lost our passion. We've lost our zeal. We've lost our determination and our heart to see that dream to come to fulfillment. He says to her, your brother is not dead, but he is asleep. She said to him, Jesus, if only you had have been here, everything would have been all right. Again, Jesus doesn't come on our timing. He doesn't come when we think he should come. He comes when he knows that the time is right. He finds Lazarus' sister. One of them inside, she's greeting all the crowd that has come to pay their respects. One is out to meet him, and Jesus simply says, take me to the place. Maybe you're in here this morning and your dream has died, your aspirations of hope have died, and you can't feel the unction. You don't feel the joy. You don't feel the peace. You don't feel the liberty of the Spirit of God. And Jesus is here this morning saying to you, take me to the place. You see, here's what we have to understand. You can tell me about your fears, and I may get fearful. You may tell me about your struggles, and it may cause me to struggle. You may come to me with mind issues that might make my mind become overwhelmed. But you can't take anything to God that will ever get him down. He said, casting all your cares upon him because he cares for you. He's not afraid of your problem. He's not afraid of your situation. He's not afraid of your sickness. He's not afraid of your disease. All you've got to do is take him to the place. He says of him, he says, take me to the place. The sisters say to him, Jesus, Lazarus is dead. If only you had have been here, he would not have died. They began to talk some more. And Jesus said, your brother shall live again. And they say of that, yes, he shall live again in the resurrection. Jesus looks at her in this moment, in this time that everything was bleak. And he says to her, lady, I am the resurrection and I am the life. And though your brother was dead, he shall live again. Let me tell you this morning, your dream may seem dead, but God said it shall live again. You got to determine, you got to have a determination. If you don't think you can make it, you never will make it. If you don't believe you're going to get to the end of this journey, I'll promise you, you'll never get to the end of this journey. But if you'll determine in your mind, come hell or high water, I may have to go through some things, but I'm going to persevere to the end of my journey because I know my God is going to take me there. He doesn't leave us out in a position. He just simply said, take me to the place. He walks to the tomb of Lazarus, and he says of them, roll back the stone. I thought about that in studying this for this morning. Jesus didn't roll back the stone himself. he inquired of the people, and he required them that they would remove the stone that was hindering a miracle. They had to remove it themselves. Listen, some of us are waiting for God to remove things out of our spirit and out of our heart and out of our life, and God can't speak a miracle until we first open the gates of death that's in our spirit. You can't come alive just because of God. God is alive, but you will only come alive when you roll back the stones of all the hidden things that's in your heart, and God will send a miracle to that situation. Roll back the stone, he says. They rolled back the stone. You see, the only thing they could do was roll back the stone. They didn't have any power to do anything else but to roll back the stone. And they rolled back the stone. And Jesus cried with a loud voice. Let me explain something to you. Jesus could have whispered it, and he still would have come out of the grave. Why do you think he did it with a loud voice? I want to tell you why he did it with a loud voice. Because it's a clarion call of eternity that in 2019, on this June morning, there is still a loud voice of Jesus that is permeating the problems and the troubles of life. And he's saying with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. You don't have to worry about God. All you got to do is worry about yourself. You don't have to worry about if God's going to show up. Take back the stone and see if God doesn't show up. Roll it back. They roll it back, and Jesus cries with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. The Bible said, Lazarus, wouldn't you like to have been there? That day when Lazarus began to shake in the corridors of that cemetery, when Jesus walked and said, Lazarus, come forth. And all of a sudden that dead man began to feel the resurrection. He began to feel the life. He began to feel hope. He began to feel joy. And though he was dead, he was living again, because Jesus said, you can live. Let me tell you this morning, don't let your dream die. If God says you can do it, you can do it. If God says he's going to do it, believe him and watch for the fulfillment of that dream. Roll back the stone. Now I want you to notice something. They roll back the stone. Jesus says, Lazarus, come forth. He comes forth, but he's still wrapped up in his grave clothes. What does that mean? That means God gave him life, but Lazarus had to be willing to unwrap himself and to uncloak himself out of the things that people had put on him. See, some of you can't do anything because you're afraid of what somebody else is going to say. And I'm going to tell you something. That's why I'm just going to let you in on a little hint. They don't want you to do anything because they're too ornery to do anything themselves. They're not holding you back because of you. They're holding you back because of them. They're unwilling to take that step and to move that rock and to listen to that voice and to love that hope that God said they can have life. They don't want you to have life because they're dead. He comes out and he's wrapped up in grave clothes. How many of you understand this morning that God can bring you out, but you have to unwrap yourself and unveil yourself and uncloak yourself of things that are in your life, that God can bring the resurrection power into your spirit, and he won't bring it until there's an unveiling. You got to get rid of something in order to put something else back on. You got to unload before you can load back up. You've got to pour out before God can pour back in. He looked at the grave clothes, signifying everything that the world had put on him. Let me tell you something. Everything that's in this world is for one reason. That's to send you straight to hell. See, we don't hear that kind of preaching anymore because we tiptoe through the tulips and we talk about what God is, and He's love and He's grace and He's prosperity and He's hope and He's faith and He's joy and He's peace. And yes, He is all of these things. But one day He is coming back to be the judge of this earth. And He's not coming back as a lamb. He's coming back as the Lion of the tribe of Judah that will bring judgment upon this world. They led Him to a whipping post, but they'll never lead Him there again. He's already took all the whippings and all the nails and all the negative attention that humanity could give Him. But when He comes the second time, He is going to unleash the power of the Almighty on the power of the world. And the only hope you have is a relationship with Jesus Christ. Muhammad can't do it. You know why he can't do it? Because when he died, he's still in the grave. Buddha can't do it. You know why? Because when he ceased to be, he can't get out. Oh, I'll tell you another one. William Branham can't do it. He's dead, and he's still dead, and he's never coming back. But Jesus said, you can destroy this temple, but in 3 days, I'm going to raise it up again. I don't need any help. I can do it all by myself. That's what Jesus said. He don't need any help. He said to those grave clothes, loose him. See, some of you this morning, including myself, I've gone through stints of being so bound by everything that's in the world that I was no use to God. See, I can be honest with you this morning because I don't really care. I've gone through times when I sang the songs to God, but they were nothing more than lip service because my heart and my mind was somewhere else. You know why I can say that so well this morning? Because you've been there too. There have been times I lifted my hands and I worshiped God, and my praise never got any higher than the roof of the building I was praising Him in, because it was coming from my lips and not coming from my heart. Let me explain something to you. You can't get your lips right to make your heart right. You've got to get your heart right, and it'll clean up your lips. I've heard people say, I can't go to church. I'm not good enough. You don't come to church to get good. You come to church to get God, and God will make everything else good. You don't have to worry about Him. He looks at the grave clothes, the things that had Him bound, the things He was wrapped up in the grave, and Jesus said, loose him and let him go. The Bible said the grave clothes started to fall off. They began to go down to the earth from whence they were created. And the power of God began to move back into that place. Let me explain this to you this morning. God is a perfect gentleman. He'll never make you praise Him. He will never make you worship Him. He will never make you shout to Him. He will never make you adore Him. He will never make you give Him any kind of worship or any kind of praise. But friend, let me tell you, when you have laid in the grave with being veiled with the things that the world has put on you, and you feel dead, and you feel hopeless, and you feel lifeless, and you feel stressed, and there's no hope, and Jesus comes to you and says, loose him and let him go. You won't have to tell somebody to praise. When God's loosed them, when God's freed them, when God's gave them liberty, you won't have to ask them to praise Him. You know, the hardest people to get to praise God is Christian people. You missed a good chance to say amen, so I'll say it again. The hardest people to get to worship is Christian people. You know why? Because they think they got it all sealed up. Because they're sitting in the pew of a church, friend. Sitting in this church doesn't make you a Christian any more than sitting in a biscuit makes you sitting in an oven make you a biscuit. Is that right? It don't work that way. It's not how it works. You've got to find freedom, not in yourself. You've got to find freedom in God. You know why some people can come regularly to church 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe a month, and then they're gone for 6 months because they didn't get their heart changed. I've heard people say, I don't have to go to church to be saved. You can't hardly stay saved inside the church, much less outside of it. I'll clap for myself if you won't. Loose him. There's someone here this morning, and the reason I know that is because you're human and you're breathing. There's someone here this morning that need to hear that voice. You're tired of walking the same path. You're walking the same trail day after day and expecting a different result. And friend, that is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing, the same way, going through the same struggles and walking around the same mountains. No change. Your heart stays hurt. Your mind stays betwixt. You never really make a decision. The hardest life you will ever live is to live bordering on a fence between God and the world and just living here a little and there a little. Let me tell you, friend, you got to make a decision. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. My kids may leave and do no telling what. I can't make them once they get of age. But as for me in this house, I'm going to serve the Lord. Am I going to serve Him perfectly? No. I'm going to fall. But I'm like the old Indian. I'm either up or on my way back up, but I ain't staying down. You got to determine in your mind and hear that voice. In your heart and in your spirit, and God's speaking to someone this morning, and He's saying to you, it's time to come out of the grave and let your dream come back to life. Are you here this morning? We don't have to have the keys pulsating in your ears or a beat or a drum. God's enough to work in this place this morning without any of that. You know where you are this morning. I sat before under sound teaching, knowing it was coming right to me. But I learned how to be a Christian so well. See, some of you are professional Christians. You're not heart Christians. You're professional Christians. You know when to lift your hands. You don't have to tell me when to lift my hands. I know when to lift my hands. I was born in this. I'll be 46 in December, and I've been going 46 years. I know when to raise my hands. I know when to applaud. I know when to stand. I know when to sit. I know the next verse. Martha gets mad at me when somebody's preaching. I'm saying the verse before they ever get to it, because I know it. But knowing it's not worth 15 cents if you don't have some legs under it that's walking you toward God. Biblical knowledge is of none effect if you don't let it create in you a clean heart and a right spirit. I know what it is to have a wrong spirit. I don't know about you, but I deal with an Adam on the inside of me. Some of you mad about things that's happened to you, and you're mad about things that happened to someone else, and the fact of the matter is, there's no need being mad. There's no need me being mad at you when I made my own choice. You understand? So we stand this morning. I don't know who's in this place, and honest to God, I can tell you, I don't know anybody's problems, situations, what they're going through in life. I know zero. But there is somebody here this morning, or somebody's, that has struggled. You've struggled. You've been in the storm. You've been in the trouble. You've had some situations that have arisen that's zapping you of your joy, your dream. Your dream's just not there anymore. These altars are open for you this morning. I can't make you come. But if you want to leave different than you came this morning, why don't you let Jesus loose you and to let you go. How many? Is there any more in here this morning? They're coming today. Is there anybody else this morning that wants to come and bow your knee before Jesus? These altars are open for you today. You've been in the storm. It seems like forever. And your night of confusion has been oh so long. Your ship has lost anchor, and the storm's got you drifting. Just hold on to Jesus and ride out the storm. You gotta ride out the storm. God's right there with you. You may not feel Him, but you're not alone. Oh, you're hurting now, but the morning is coming. You gotta hold on to Jesus and ride out the storm. Just remember God's promise. He said, I'll never forsake you. Though the waters are raging, they'll do you no harm. Listen now. Don't give up the battle, for the answer is coming. You gotta hold on to Jesus and just ride out the storm. You gotta ride out the storm. My God's right there with you. Oh, you may not feel Him, but you're not alone. You're hurting now, but the morning is coming. Oh, just hold on to Jesus and ride out the storm. I love this verse. Just remember God's promise. He said, I'll never forsake you. Though the waters are raging, they can do you no harm. Just don't give up the battle, for the answer is coming. You gotta hold on to Jesus and just ride out the storm. You gotta ride out the storm. My God's right there with you. Oh, you may not feel Him, but you're not alone. You're hurting now, but the morning is coming. Gotta hold on to Jesus and ride out the storm. You've been in this storm. Is this anybody this morning? It seems like forever, and your night of confusion has been oh so long, and your ship has lost anchor, and the storm's got you drifting, but the night's almost over. You gotta ride out the storm. One more time and sing. You gotta this morning. We honor you, Jesus. We love you today. You're worthy today to be lifted up. We magnify you. Thank you for being here this morning. We hope that you have sensed the presence of the Lord. Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, we have our midweek Bible study. Brother Ferris will be preaching to the adults. We will have the youth. We want to encourage you to come and be a part of that. Next Sunday, can anybody say Potluck Sunday? Say it about 10 times real fast. Next Sunday is Potluck Sunday. Potluck, potluck, potluck. So we appreciate you this morning being here. Bring something good. Bring enough to share. If you've got a family of 10, don't bring a can of corn. Okay? Bring enough for you and me and all my tribe. God bless you.